I stood in my kitchen at 3 in the morning, staring at my phone. My husband had just sent me a text. It said, "We need to talk." Those 4 words that nobody ever wants to see. And I knew exactly what it meant. After 6 months of caring for my father with dementia, my marriage was falling apart. And I had to make a choice that would haunt me forever. This isn't just my story. This is happening to millions of families right now. And nobody talks about it. Nobody prepares you for the moment when taking care of your aging parent destroys everything else in your life. Let me take you back to where this all started. My father was diagnosed with early onset dementia at 62. The doctors said we had maybe 5 to 7 years before he'd need full-time care. But dementia doesn't follow a schedule. It doesn't care about your plans or your marriage or your career. Within 18 months, Dad couldn't be left alone. He'd forget to turn off the stove. He'd wander outside in the middle of winter without a coat. One time, he got in his car and drove 3 hours in the wrong direction before a police officer found him at a gas station, confused and terrified. My mother had passed away 4 years earlier from cancer. So it was just me. I'm an only child. There was nobody else to share this burden with. And that word burden, it makes me feel guilty even saying it. Because how can you call caring for your own father a burden? But here's what nobody tells you about elder care. It consumes everything. Your time. Your energy. Your money. Your relationships. Your mental health. Everything. I started bringing Dad to my house during the day while my husband worked. Just during the day, I told myself. Just until we figure out a better solution. But there is no better solution when you can't afford full-time care. Do you know how much memory care facilities cost? Anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per month. My father's retirement savings would have lasted maybe 2 years. So I became his full-time caregiver. I quit my job. That was the first sacrifice. $45,000 a year, gone. My husband said he understood. He said we'd make it work on his salary. But understanding and actually living through it are 2 completely different things. The resentment started small. Little comments here and there. Why is the house always a mess? When was the last time we had a real dinner? Can't your dad go to adult daycare or something? Each question felt like a knife. Because I was trying my best. I was drowning, and instead of throwing me a life preserver, my husband was asking why I wasn't swimming faster. Then Dad started having nighttime episodes. Sundowning, they call it. When dementia patients become more confused and agitated as evening approaches. He'd wake up at 2 in the morning thinking he needed to go to work. He'd try to leave the house. I had to install special locks he couldn't open. My husband suggested we move Dad into our guest room. Just temporarily. Just until we found a facility with an opening. That temporarily turned into 6 months. 6 months of my father sleeping 20 feet away from our bedroom. 6 months of interrupted sleep. 6 months of my husband and I becoming strangers who happened to live in the same house. We stopped having conversations that weren't about Dad's medication schedule or doctor appointments. We stopped having date nights. We stopped having any kind of intimacy at all. How can you think about romance when you're mentally and physically exhausted every single day? My friends stopped calling. At first, they'd invite me to lunch or coffee. But I'd always have to cancel. Dad can't be left alone. Eventually, they stopped trying. I don't blame them. Who wants to be friends with someone who's never available? The isolation was crushing. I went from having a career and a social life to spending 14 hours a day with someone who barely recognized me half the time. Do you know how heartbreaking it is when your own father looks at you like you're a stranger? When he calls you by your mother's name. When he accuses you of stealing from him. Dementia doesn't just take away memory. It takes away personality. The man I was caring for wasn't really my father anymore. Not the father who taught me to ride a bike. Not the father who walked me down the aisle at my wedding. That person was gone, replaced by someone who was confused and angry and scared. And I was grieving him while he was still alive. That's a special kind of hell that nobody prepares you for. My husband tried to be supportive at first. He really did. But watching someone you love disappear into caregiver burnout is its own kind of torture. I wasn't the woman he married anymore. I was exhausted. I was irritable. I cried at random moments. I had nothing left to give to our relationship. The breaking point came on our anniversary. Our 10th anniversary. My husband had made reservations at the restaurant where we had our first date. Had arranged for a home health aide to stay with Dad for the evening. It was supposed to be our chance to reconnect. But 2 hours before we were supposed to leave, Dad had a fall. Nothing serious, just lost his balance getting out of his chair. But he was shaken up and refused to let the aide near him. He only wanted me. So I canceled our anniversary dinner. Again. That's when my husband sent that text. We need to talk. And I knew our marriage was over unless something changed. But what could change? I couldn't abandon my father. And I couldn't afford professional care. I was trapped. Here's what makes elder care so devastating to families. It's not just the physical demands. It's the financial catastrophe. The average family caregiver spends $7,000 per year out of pocket on caregiving expenses. That's on top of lost wages from reducing work hours or quitting entirely. Women bear the brunt of this crisis. 61% of family caregivers are women. And we're expected to sacrifice our careers, our health, our relationships, because that's what good daughters do. But nobody asks what happens to us when the caregiving ends. When our parent finally passes away and we're left with a destroyed marriage, no career, and trauma that will take years to process. I started researching my options. Medicaid could cover nursing home care, but only after my father had spent down all his assets. That felt like financial elder abuse, draining everything had worked for his entire life. Plus, the quality of Medicaid facilities was terrifying. Understaffed. Overworked nurses. Patients left sitting in soiled clothes for hours. I looked into VA benefits since Dad was a veteran. But the wait list was 18 months long. Adult daycare programs had limited hours and didn't help with the nighttime chaos. Respite care was temporary and expensive. Every solution I found was either inadequate or unaffordable or both. Meanwhile, my marriage was dying. My husband sat me down one night and said something he'll never forget. I love you, but I can't keep living like this. I feel like a guest in my own home. I feel like I don't matter anymore. And he was right. I had made my father my entire world because I had no other choice. But here's the cruel irony. Even if I chose my marriage over my father's care, where would Dad go? Who would take care of him? The guilt of that question was paralyzing. How do you live with yourself if you put your parent in a substandard facility just to save your marriage? This is why elder care tears families apart. Because there are no good options. Every choice feels like a betrayal. Choose your parent, lose your spouse. Choose your spouse, abandon your parent. Choose yourself, feel guilty forever. It's a no-win situation that millions of families face in silence. The statistics are staggering. 40% of family caregivers report high emotional stress. Caregivers are 63% more likely to die than non-caregivers of the same age. The physical and mental health consequences are severe. Depression, anxiety, chronic health conditions from years of stress. And the financial impact extends far beyond immediate costs. Family caregivers lose an average of $300,000 in lifetime wealth due to reduced earnings and retirement savings. That's your future security, sacrificed because our society refuses to adequately support elder care. I eventually made my choice. I found a memory care facility that wasn't perfect but was safe and clean. I used Dad's remaining savings and applied for Medicaid to cover the rest. It took 3 months to get him placed. 3 months of my husband sleeping in the spare bedroom. 3 months of barely speaking to each other. When Dad finally moved into the facility, I felt relief and crushing guilt in equal measure. Relief that I could sleep through the night. Guilt that I had given up on him. Even though rationally, I knew I hadn't given up. I had just reached the limit of what one person can do. My marriage survived, but it's different now. We're rebuilding, but there are cracks that will probably never fully heal. My husband resents the years we lost. I resent that he couldn't understand what I was going through. We're working on it with a therapist, but some damage can't be undone. Dad passed away 8 months after moving into memory care. In some ways, it was a relief. He was no longer suffering. I was no longer watching him disappear piece by piece, but the grief is complicated. I grieve the father I lost years before he died. I grieve the time with my husband that we'll never get back. I grieve the career I'll never rebuild. If you're facing this impossible choice right now, here's what I want you to know. You are not selfish for wanting to preserve your own life. You are not a bad daughter or son for admitting you can't do it all. You are not weak for needing help. The system is broken, not you. We need to start talking about elder care as the public health crisis it is. We need affordable, quality care options. We need paid family leave for caregivers. We need respite care and support groups and mental health services. We need a society that doesn't force people to choose between caring for their parents and destroying their own lives. Until that happens, families will keep being torn apart by impossible choices. Marriages will keep ending. Careers will keep being sacrificed. And millions of people will keep suffering in silence, thinking they're the only ones going through this nightmare. You're not alone. This system is failing all of us. And it's time we started demanding better. Because nobody should have to choose between their marriage and their father's dementia care. Nobody should have to sacrifice everything to do the right thing. We deserve better. Our parents deserve better. And it's time we started fighting for it.